Hello, bisexuals, brain surgeons, and bicycle enthusiasts. This is Beansplaining. I am your host, Tori.
And I'm your co-host, Patrick. I'm sorry for that introduction. I had no idea I was setting you guys up for that.
Hey, you don't even know if I'm keeping that in.
I don't know.
I could just start at the very
You
beginning.
could turn my words against me.
I could. I have the control here.
That's right.
So, we're really short on time today. Patrick is heading to
Chicago.
Chicago. And I had a book prepared. So the book that I want to do next is called The Myth of Normal by Gabor Mate. He's a doctor. It's about modern day psychology, ADHD, trauma. But my printer took a shit, so we can't do that. Or at least I could, but it would be chaotic. So I figured since we're going chaotic, let's go super chaotic. So I do the internet. I do the brain rot.
Yeah.
So I want to do these questions that I found on the internet. I say I found on the internet. I think they're really good questions, and there's really good reason why. How many colleges did you apply to?
0. Big old goose egg.
What do you mean? You went to college?
I went to trade school.
That's college.
You don't have to apply to a trade school.
So how does that work?
You want to learn some stuff about trades? Give me your money, and I'll teach you how to get about trades.
It doesn't matter like what your GPA is, what your ACT score is. Do you even have to provide that kind of stuff?
Yes. Well, not ACT score, no. Because I never formally took the ACT.
Did you take the SAT? No, you didn't take any of it. Are you serious? That's wild.
I took the practice ACT in middle school.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, is at least you would have taken that.
Practice scores don't count towards an actual ACT score.
Yeah, I know.
So,
but I don't know. That's still crazy.
No, they didn't care. All they wanted was a GED.
Oh, wow. But you didn't even... Did you have a GED or did you had GED? Okay. Did you ever go back and get like... Because, I think there's some programs where you can get like a high school diploma. Did you ever do that?
It's a GED.
I know they're the same, but like for some reason, some people care more if you have like a GED versus a high school diploma.
I don't think anybody cares. Not nowadays, but...
Yeah. I mean, and there's so many different like pathways to like get an education, so that makes sense.
It was basically like, you know how to read and write, use a wrench, cool. We shall teach you things for set amount of money.
What about like, can you get like scholarships?
You can get Pell Grants. That's about it.
Okay, that's all that they really offer.
Yeah, that and just FAFSA, so federal student aid.
Yeah, I think you get the Pell Grant after filling out the FAFSA. Yeah. Well, I think we both know that my college career was pretty chaotic, and I applied to a bunch of different schools because I kept changing schools because I kept moving. Every time I applied to a school, I never had to fill out any kind of like, which I wasn't going to like Ivy League schools, but I never had to fill out any kind of like essay.
Yeah.
Or anything like that. There were some options for scholarships that you could like write an essay, and then you could like, it was like competitive.
Yeah, like this is why you should pick me.
Yeah.
School type. Yeah.
So, well, and not like just that, like, yes, it's why, but it's like who you are. Or they'd ask a question and you'd have to answer the question. And depending on your answer, they would go through, and of course they would take into account things like your GPA and stuff, but the essay could hold a lot of weight, especially if it was a good one.
Right.
So I saw online they were talking, like when people say Oxford, they don't mean like Oxford, Mississippi. They mean Oxford, the school.
Yes.
So Oxford, the school in the UK.
Yeah.
They have these really large lists of questions, and you're supposed to like go in and answer them. So like this list is the general paper one, and it says candidates should answer 3 questions. And then you have politics one, candidates should answer 3 of these questions. And it's just different, really interesting questions. A lot of these questions can allow you to showcase your knowledge, not only about history, philosophy, all of the things that you would have studied, but also like present day.
Like current day events.
Yeah, like how much are you invested in these politics? And also, one very interesting thing is I think these kind of questions can also weed out certain kinds of people.
Right.
So I don't know. I found it really interesting that they asked these questions, and I would love to like read some essays to see like how people answer them. But I was thinking, just me and you chit chatting, I thought it would be cool to answer them ourselves and see how we, in a very short form, would answer these questions. I'm not looking to like make verbal essays or anything, but I think it's really interesting to see these questions and to kind of understand, if you haven't applied to college, what you could be looking at, or if you've already applied to college but you may want to go back, or even if you're just like, I really like some brain teasers. I really like to answer questions that provoke a lot of thought.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think these are really cool. Obviously, we're not going to do each one because it's a huge list.
Yeah.
But there are some ones that I think are kind of interesting, and I just want to hear our thoughts. So, I'm just going to pick the very first one just to give an idea of what some of these are. First one on the politics page. Were the COVID lockdowns a legitimate use of state power?
Is this just a world analysis view, or is this...
It just has... So, a big part of this is, like, it's going to give you a question and give you no
context?
No context. And I think that's, like, part of the idea. Where do you take this?
Right. No.
Tell me more.
So, I agree that COVID did spread and did have a death percentage that was very concerning, but...
unreasonable, honestly.
Well, yeah, but I think that, like... So, United States-wise, like, we shut down a lot of businesses.
Yeah.
Small businesses, stuff like that, and kind of didn't really offer much help, as far as my understanding.
Oh, yeah, it could have definitely been handled better.
Right. But I think that...
But I
the
think
thing that's difficult about America is, we're the land of the free, but how free? Like when you start shutting
so
down
you think people
businesses...
should have been free to, like, stay open if they wanted to?
Yeah, I think so,
Okay.
personally. But it also did kind of put everything in more of like treating the American people like toddlers, I guess. And I don't know. I think that's the one thing I struggle with politics in America is the fact that we're advertised as this freedom, this, free that, free whatever. But in reality, like, we're just as free as other people. Like, if I'm not mistaken, when I was in high school, so like 2013, something like that, we were recorded as the 40th most free country in the entire world, which is fucking insane considering the fact that, like, our whole entire culture is built around freedom.
Well, so I have opinions about that, about the whole, like, freedom thing, because we very much value the appearance of freedom,
Yeah.
right? Because we want to be able to say what we want. We need to have our guns. But there's so much freedom that can only be allotted once you have an equitable society. So, like, if someone is not given the same kind of opportunities as someone else, they truly do not have freedom. Because for me, freedom means the ability to pursue happiness, the pursuit of happiness, like the whole thing, and main point of the Constitution, right? So, how can someone be able to pursue happiness if what's going to make them happy is the ability to, like, make art, but they can't afford art supplies?
Yeah.
That's just like a very generic example, but then you have to look at it and you have to say, but it has to be like opportunities, right? So everyone gets the same opportunities. Everyone just doesn't get to do whatever they want to do. So let's say that someone wants to become a doctor. They should be allowed to access that education. That doesn't mean that they get to become a doctor if they don't put in the effort, if they don't show the aptitude. But then we get into, like, is it really merit-based? Because a lot of times it's not. And, there's a bunch of... that's the whole point of the question, right? Is to get you to evolve into other things.
Right.
So the counter argument to your argument, you saying, businesses, if we're so about freedom, should have been able to stay open. The counter argument is businesses are not as important as the life of a human, right?
Right.
So people say that the lockdowns were important because we don't need this to continue to spread. But then we get to the point where it's like, okay, the lockdowns were supposed to only be so we could prevent the spread until we came up with a good vaccine. Because the people that were the most vulnerable were kids and the elderly, right? Or people that were immunocompromised.
Right.
But then we have like herd immunity. So herd immunity only works if a good bit of people are
Right.
exposed. So you have some people saying, well, we should have like actually pushed exposure because then we would have had herd immunity. I've heard so many arguments on either side, and you hear a lot. This was like unprecedented. So we did what we could, and absolutely it was handled extremely poorly.
Well, I think hindsight, I mean, and I'm not defending how everything was handled, but I mean, I think hindsight being crystal clear, 2020, whatever you want to say, there's always going to be things that you could do differently and handle better, especially in like a spur of the moment situation. Like, it felt like everything was knee jerk reaction. Like, nothing was really well thought out. They weren't thinking about the longevity of small businesses in the moment. Like, do they have enough saved up to be able to withstand this closure? They just kind of did it.
Well, I work for a small company, and companies that had less than 500 employees at that time were given stipends to allow their employees to be home for so many weeks at a time. And that's not just like if they were affected by COVID. You could actually choose, if you were 500 employees or less, you could actually choose to take a leave of absence, kind of like a medical leave of absence,
Uh,
and they would pay for it. Mm.
it wasn't furlough. It was
No, it was not furlough. There was actually a name for it. It was like,
voluntary something. I can't remember. I know what you're
yeah.
talking. We did the same thing at the company I was working at.
Well,
Um,
some of the employees that I worked with at the time, they took the leave and like for their kids, like they're like, so maybe they had kids that were like immunocompromised, or like, I was taking care of my grandmother at the time she had terminal cancer,
yeah.
and I didn't end up taking it. Mm, It was kind of a money thing because you only got so much. And then it was kind of like a pressure thing, right? Because the government had this funding where they would pay employees. But what does that leave the company to look like when those employees are gone? So, sure, business like decreased when COVID was happening, because obviously less people were out doing things,
It never
but
stopped.
it never stopped. So, you still have businesses that need to be ran, and there's no one there to do it. And or there's many less people there to do it because they have the opportunity to thankfully protect themselves and their families. But we just don't have the infrastructure to push. So we didn't have the infrastructure then, and a lot of places we don't have it now, but that's when it started, like, the work from home movement, right? Because if anything like this does happen again, there's so many businesses that now have that opportunity if something like this did come back.
Right.
There's a lot of things. And you could, kinda like you were saying, you could push the conversation. Let's say you were actually filling out this in an essay, you could push that conversation into the future. Like, say you're going for college and you're trying to answer this question in a way that is stimulating and shows your perspective, but also shows your capabilities. Pushing that in a direction of like, okay, well, what could we do in the future to actually make this good?
Right.
And not something as simple as like, well, let businesses stay open, because that wouldn't have solved much of anything, right?
Right.
That's a small component of a much bigger issue.
Yeah.
Do you mind if we go to the next one?
Sure.
So this one is on the general paper page. So these are not necessarily political, they're just general. It could be political. Why is a leather jacket more acceptable than a fur coat?
So why are leather jackets more accepted than fur coats?
Sure. Yeah.
Because people in the LGBTQ community probably wear fur coats as opposed to leather, and people don't want to support the community.
Is that your take?
That's my hot take. That's my answer. That is the answer.
Is
That's
that
not,
the answer?
Yeah, that's the truth. I thought on that for a minute. It's the truth.
I don't think that's the truth.
I think it's the fact.
Okay. Interesting.
No, not really. Why is it more acceptable I think like maybe because
Honestly, like, can I just if we're talking about, like, alternative lifestyles, I think anyone in any kind of alternative lifestyle is wearing more leather than anybody else. It may not be actual leather, it may very well be vegan leather, but at least the people I'm friends with, hella into the leather. I don't know a damn person.
oh, do you know a straight person that wears a fur coat?
I guess whenever I think of, like, fur coat, I'm thinking of opulence. I'm thinking of excessive wealth.
Yeah, well, like Cruella de Vil, or oh, that one sounded very Cruella de Vil. There we go. That's better.
Yeah, that one.
The Deville. No,
The
the
depot.
Deville lady. No,
Well,
like I think Cruella de Vil. Anytime I ever think fur coat.
right. And so and actually probably not, at least for the most part, not real fur coats, but for a while there was this like quote unquote micro trend on TikTok where girls would it was called like mob boss wife style,
Yeah,
and it was a lot of women wearing a lot of fur
and
coats.
like silk dresses, I'm sure too. Yeah, so I think realistically, like all joking aside, I think in a day to day life, anybody can attribute like a leather jacket to not. It is fashionable, yes,
Mhm.
but like the issue with a lot of fashion is it doesn't serve a purpose sometimes. Whereas I think with leather, it's very functional as well. Like leather was also used in aspects of trade industries and work. Like, say, if I want to go weld, I need to wear leather pullover jackets. Whereas, like, a fur coat doesn't really serve as much of a purpose. Like, don't get me wrong, it does. Like, in certain climates, like Siberia, freezing climates, stuff like that, fur is more than likely going to warm you a lot better than a leather jacket will. But I feel like in our day to day lives, we see a lot more characters and leather being functionally used and beneficial to us than something in fur. So maybe
It's
that's,
more practical. I
well,
get what you're
I think it's a
saying.
psychological thing. I think it, to an extent, like people see leather and they can think of something like I see leather, I think of motorcycle jackets.
Okay.
What purpose do they serve on a motorcycle? Well, they break the wind really well. It's back in the day, in the early day, they were used because it was the easiest made material to have. I mean, most everything was made out of leather because it was robust, it was sturdy, it would keep you warm, and it would also deflect like impacts, stuff like that. So there was definitely a functionality. As an American, I think it's been kind of ingrained as psychologically to like have that
Oh,
beneficial
yeah.
uses. You get what I'm saying?
Well, and also I think it's an optics thing, right?
Right.
Because like Wild Wild West, you got your leather jackets, you got your cowboy denim, whatever.
Right.
Personally, I kind of think about so obviously I'm not down for mass killing of animals to like sustain humans.
Right.
I don't that makes me feel very bad. And I have a bunch of like not work through feelings on a lot of things, so like veganism.
Right.
And then you always hear counter arguments where it's like, "Oh, you wanna be a vegan, but you know, you don't know how much veganism affects the planet." And, it's always like weighing what is the greater good.
Right.
But I know historically, when we look at, like, Native American cultures,
Yeah.
using everything from an animal if you take its life,
Right.
I think that is beautiful. I think now, especially in this age, we focus so much, we talk about like fast fashion and all of that kind of stuff. And even some of the back when we were talking about just a second ago, the mob wife
Right.
aesthetic, a lot of those girls were vintage shopping for these fur coats, and that was kind of their even if they were conscious of the effect that fur coats and that kind of industry has,
Right.
they were thinking, well, this is already produced. Like, this is, from XYZ. But the problem then is, yes, it is from XYZ, but you're online, you're influencing, you're popularizing something that's going to need to be reproduced.
Right.
And of course, nowadays we can reproduce that kind of look in a way that does not harm animals at all because we can make it out of things that are not animals, right? And of course, then it's not like real leather or real fur, but it has that fashionable appearance.
Right.
But then it doesn't have the attributes that really you're looking for. And I think as Americans, like you were saying, we're always pressed to go for like this functionality.
Right.
I think honestly, if you have access to something or you know someone who lives a kind of life where they are utilizing everything. Or if we were, say, in a different time and place and our culture did that, I think that would be beautiful. I think it would be wonderful because we do have like uses for leather. We do have uses for fur, like you were talking about, not just like a fashion statement, but actually like utilizing that as something maybe in Alaska or in colder
Right.
climates. I think that would be beautiful, but that's just not where we are. That's not who we are as a people, and maybe we'll get there one day to where we're actually like using the resources we have. And actually knowing how like grimy capitalism can be sometimes, I sometimes knowing how grimy capitalism can be, I wouldn't be surprised if there were a lot of people who actually did use every single bit because they like don't want to waste any money.
Well, and like kind of staying on the topic of leather, it kind of feels like there's tit for tat as far as like different grades of leather and stuff like that. So you have genuine leather, which is essentially,
The worst kind, right?
well, it's imagine getting scraps of leather, putting it in a blender, and then using like a binder to join all of that together. And that's what genuine leather is.
Which is crazy
It's
because when
similar
you hear
process.
that, yeah, you're thinking like, "Oh, it's genuine."
Yeah, no, it's not. It's
I mean, it is, but like not in the way like if I heard someone without any context saying like, "Oh, this is genuine leather." I would think, "Oh, that's really cool. This is like actually from like a hide that was processed." And I honestly would think it to be more of a like natural process.
it's as much leather as a McDonald's chicken nugget is chicken.
Ah, yes.
Like that's the best analogy I have
Yeah.
because and then you have your vegan leathers, which believe it or not, vegan leathers are extremely processed. And most of the time they're very flammable. It more or less ends up being a plastic more than anything. And I feel like that would be more of supporting capitalism by buying vegan leathers. I feel like, for my personal preference, like what I think. Now, vegetable tan leathers are some of the most robust as far as like your more expensive stuff is going to be either hybrid tanned or vegetable tanned because of the time that it takes to do it, but it also keeps that rigidity that you need for like impacts, stuff like that. Like it has a functional form to it. But
Thanks for
yeah,
that mini lesson on leather
yeah,
leather working.
yeah. I had it as a small hobby for a short amount of time, so I definitely delved into the research on it. But yeah, I think that there's a functionality tied to our brain. That's why we look and favor leather stuff more than fur stuff.
Well, and maybe, as a society, as we grow, it seems like we're definitely growing to be more conscious of the world we live in, especially as technology grows. We know more than ever about where our stuff is coming from, who makes it,
Yeah.
all that good stuff. So maybe one day we'll have maybe in a solar punk style a way to feel better about the things we put on our bodies knowing that it's a result from not wanting to waste instead of a result of like hungry hippo just consuming as much as we can to the point where like other species can't even keep up without being you know I don't want to get into all
That's
that,
what I'm
but
talking about. So you hear the guys that buy everything you can, even if you don't need it.
I mean it feels like that's what a lot of companies want you to do.
Buy, 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 buy.
And this is actually going to kind of go into the next question, but like especially I get so like I get caught up with the idea of like preppers and stuff because that fear gets me. I love like video games like Fallout and stuff, and I think that aesthetic is very interesting. I think like the ideas are like Cold War style, whatever. What's a movie you can think that's kind of like that?
That has a prepper aspect in it.
Yeah.
Cloverfield Lane,
Mm,
11 Cloverfield Lane, I believe is the movie
yeah,
title.
where it's like the girl, she ends up they're like you can't go out, and she's like, no,
Yeah, it's
I'm gonna get out, and he like
Phil. Is it not? It's not Philip Seymour Hoffman.
I don't know.
I can't remember the actor's name. He did, I think, but I think he voiced Buzz Lightyear, the guy who did Buzz Lightyear's voice. He played in The Big Lebowski. I know you don't know that one either. cannot remember his name off the top of my head, but he was the guy who took in the girl into his like doomsday
Bunker.
shelter
Yeah.
bunker, and it was like self-sustainable. And yeah,
Yeah, no, it was so gross. I hated watching it and I won't watch it again. I'm not saying it's a bad movie, but God, there's a reason I don't like movies. Not to be,
I
you
love
know.
movies so much.
I know. I'd rather read it. And sometimes books ick me out as well. It's not like it's just movies, but I don't know. I feel like I can almost parse it better or my brain can like block it out more if I need to. Whereas like I don't know, like growing up, I remember seeing some movies and just like very vivid images stained into my brain.
That's what I'm about, man. I did a lot of self-traumatizing growing up. Signs, the scene where the fingers come
Dude,
off underneath the
Signs
door.
was so scary.
I was terrified. That
I
movie
would
came out in
rewatch it
like,
though because I also liked horror.
I think it came out in like 2004, 2003. So that means I was roughly like 5 or 6 years old.
hmm
Shit scared the hell out of me. And then like I rewatched it as like an adult, and the first jump scare I remember is you see a silhouette standing on the rooftop, and just great performance.
So, are you ready for the next question?
Yes.
Open quotes. A lunatic is easily recognized. Sooner or later, he brings up the Knights Templar. In quotes. Discuss.
I don't know what the fuck that means. Hell yeah, dude.
So,
That's what I would write in the essay. Hell yeah, bro. Let me in your fucking school. Please.
please, pretty please.
Please.
So, do you know what the Knights Templar are?
I know what the Knights Templar are. Yeah.
Tell me.
The Knights Templar were like the Christian Crusades, right?
Okay, yeah.
And they like
So, just a little,
essentially Christian terrorists, more or less.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I did a little like Google, and this is the AI overview, so very much may not be accurate at all. But just to like kind of get us all on the same page, the Knights Templar were a powerful Catholic military and religious order founded in the early 12th century to protect European pilgrims and interest in the Holy Land.
Well,
Nah, they was pillaging.
yeah, it was just, if I'm not mistaken, it was the Catholics' military, essentially.
That's what I just said.
Yeah, I know, but you said a Catholic military. But like the Pope, the Vatican, like that's their militarized force, or was.
Well, but the Pope isn't the same as like the Pope basically rules, but like the Pope isn't like the Pope is not the governmental ruling force,
Yes.
even though obviously a lot of the past was ruled just by religion. But they became wealthy and influential through donations and sophisticated financial systems, but were eventually suppressed by King Philip of France and officially dissolved by Pope Clement in 1312. Their legacy continues in modern Freemasonry and in the collective imagination. Collective imagination being a big one there. So I think it is pointing out that a lot of people that are really big into conspiracy theories, which you might know someone that is particularly a big fan of conspiracy theories, they
My uncle.
talking about your uncle. They always circle back to the Knights Templar. And so I think that's kind of what this is saying is like a lunatic is easily recognized. Sooner or later, he brings up the Knights Templar. It's kind of saying if you hear someone going on a rant about the Knights Templar or they're discussing conspiracy and they end up going, oh, yeah, the Knights Templar, you know that they don't know what they're talking about, probably. And also are gullible enough to like, if these dudes are running.
Oh yeah, dude. Well, I mean, you played Assassin's Creed, right?
My brother used to be really into it, but I haven't really played that much of it.
So the Knights Templar was a big component in that too. But
I mean, yeah, but
it's the idea that, so the fun thing about conspiracy theories is there's always a scapegoat, right? There's always somebody to point a finger at. So, like, example, 9/11 conspiracy theories. Well, jet fuel doesn't melt steel beams. The government preemptively planned to blow that building up in order to get us over into the war in the Middle East and look for weapons of mass destruction, yada, yada, whatever. Who's the scapegoat? Scapegoat is the United States government. We incited it. Okay? Like, they don't know that for sure, but they're looking at societies that are larger than themselves and pointing the finger. It's someone who wants to put the blame on somebody else. 9 times out of 10, a lot of the people that I find who are extremely really big into conspiracy theories and stuff like that have accountability issues for themselves. Typically, they won't hold themselves accountable because it's easier for them to point the fingers and blame them. Now, don't get me wrong, like there are some conspiracy theories that I buy into, but
I'm actually sitting here thinking about it, and like, I don't even know any conspiracy theories that involve the Knights Templar, other than people saying,
Illuminati,
is that
similar. It's
I didn't know they like
I'm
intertwined.
sure it would.
They
I'm
do
sure
talk about like
there's theories
Freemasons.
somewhere that
Yeah.
yeah, Freemasonry is also
Well, that's supposed to be like the present day
right, but how many times do you hear
Knights Templar.
Freemasonry and Illuminati being assimilated together?
Right,
It's a
yeah.
secret society. Is
But
it's
the Knights Templar were not secret.
yeah, not
It was a
then, but
war.
you heard they got disbanded in like 1312.
Oh, so maybe we're thinking like,
They're not public knowledge anymore.
oh,
That's
okay.
the theory.
Yeah, this is actually like too far down the rabbit hole for me to even be very
And I
versed in.
agree. Like
You agree what?
I agree with the quote. The
Oh, that you'll know eventually because people will start spouting off about this kind of stuff.
yeah,
You know what direction someone's coming from if they have this lexicon.
yeah. I mean, like I enjoy simple conspiracy theories. Like
No, I think it can be fun, but it also is a slippery slope because
you can either get as involved as you want to or as little involved as you want to.
well, and
Like
people will go into full psychosis. It's not even like it's, a fun, happy ha ha. I mean, I want to do a beansplaining one day on Behold a Pale Horse, but it, so when I first saw that book and I read it, I was like, interesting. And then, you get more into it and you get to certain parts and you're like, oh, this is anti-Semitism. And it's like that happens every time people are into conspiracy theories. I don't know, there's just so much hate interwoven when it could just be like aliens are out there, my guy.
oh, it's I mean, like I believe the conspiracy theory of quality of water definitely affects like
But that's not a conspiracy theory. Like
it's
literally it
not,
was
but
lead
it's
poisoning. Like we know that like so many people are the way they are because of lead poisoning.
right. But like even like right now, for example, in Memphis, Memphis is saying that there is no the quality in the water is not bad, but like people will take samples from other public sites and it's bad.
Well, so actually I read into that one day and they were saying that it's actually the water actually isn't bad. It's the pipes.
Yeah,
And that's the reason why you can go because it was also something about Flint, Michigan. Like it was, how to when we have things like this that come out, especially considering that reviews of city water only come out like what, annually, biannually, something like that.
right.
How do you know that your water is good? Well, a lot of times your water is fine. It's if they show you samples taken at the plant, wherever the water is processed, those samples will be good.
Yeah, but if you take them at the
House,
house,
it's your pipes. And
well, it's because like I
it's not
know
even your pipes in your house, it's the city pipes.
right, like MLGW, whenever they went through and redid a lot of the pipes, because when we started finding out in research that lead was toxic to humans and caused all these symptoms.
Yeah, and it never goes away.
Well, so the MLGW, the Memphis Light Gas and Water, they went through and started putting what I've heard from multiple people was just inserts into the pipes. They didn't even replace the pipe.
No, but see, and then we get into conspiracy theory versus like people being informed, right?
Hmm.
So that's actually something that really happened. Like that's for real. And so the thing is, we don't have the quote unquote, we don't have the money to fix the infrastructure. It's huge projects that need to happen. Like, so pipes, that's one part of the infrastructure. Another issue in Memphis is the electricity grid, also MLGW. But we just don't have quote unquote the money to fix it. So we think of these like creative ways. And the thing is, if you have a pipe, an insert put within that pipe that is keeping the water from actually touching the older pipe, technically that works. But I don't think that how they did it actually worked.
And that was also put
Um,
in there 40 to 50 years ago.
Yeah,
The
so
inserts have to be valuable. At the time, they probably thought this material, like the newest material for building with water, how like water pipes and stuff like that for not only commercial but residential is PEX fittings. And
mhm.
it's because it's a new plastic that's been researched to be non-toxic, but also doesn't like it has a larger threshold for failure than conventional piping did before.
What does that mean, threshold for failure?
So like you had like a larger window where the water could freeze inside of it, and the plastic pipe would expand instead of just cracking and breaking.
So you'd have less
Less
leaks.
leaks.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like the sweet like back in the day. I say back in the day, in the mid to early 90s, we used gray PVC piping, which I think it's polybutyl piping, maybe. I may be wrong on that, but it's more brittle now that it's older. It's extremely brittle. And it also breaks like almost immediately as soon as any water or anything freezes inside of it. But see, like, they didn't put it in the 90s and they're like, this shit's trash. Like, we're just going to put this PVC in here and have to deal with it 30 years later. Like, they didn't do that. At the time, they thought it was the stuff. Like, they thought it was the best thing ever. Same thing with like lead piping and those inserts that they put in there. At the time, they probably thought, we'll never have to touch this again. This is great material. Yeah, but you don't have a time machine to know what it's going to look like 30 years, 50 years down the road, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's just come apart, come undone, whatever. And I think everybody here who's drinking unfiltered public water out of the fucking sinks are probably getting lead toxicity more than likely. And it's irreversible too.
Yeah, lead stays in your system, it doesn't go away. This actually transitions us because we, like, really took off on the conspiracy aspect of that. This transitions into another one of the questions. It's on the politics section. It says, "Why are conspiracy theories so enduring?" So, like, why do conspiracy theories why doesn't that fizzle out? Why is that always something that's, like, being pressed?
Well, for one, I think there is a certain type of person that likes to blame other people and stir the pot.
Mm,
I think there is a certain, like, the people I know that are obsessed with conspiracy theories are the people who are obsessed with drama, pointing fingers out, and like just starting
so
shit.
maybe, like, people that want their lives to be bigger than they actually are.
Yeah. Like
Mm,
they're like heavy main character energy. Like
mm.
I feel like there's a certain group of people that follow it for that reason, but I think like let's think of it between like using alcoholic spectrum here. All right. I think those people are the guys who go and buy a handle every night and get shit faced and just fucking like blackout drunk. That's the severity of those guys who think that way in conspiracy theory world.
I don't think that's a good analogy. Can you come up with something else? It doesn't really ring. Oh, what
I
are you
feel like
trying to
they're
say?
in favor of conspiracy theories because it's scratching an itch to another problem that they have. I don't think they like conspiracy theories for the sake of conspiracy theories.
So that's why you're comparing it to addiction. You think
Yeah,
it's very
it's a
close to
masking something
addiction.
else.
Yes, okay. So they're kinda using this to cope with other things that they're not dealing with.
Right.
Okay, now I understand what you're saying.
Like I can't latch onto that. I've never really been that way. I'm usually a very like self-absorbed person when it comes to trauma and dealing with my issues. I'm very quiet because I'm thinking about things a lot.
Mm.
And I think like people on my same level where they're very like hold themselves accountable, stuff like that, they'll dibble and dabble in it and kind of they find it more humorous than anything. Like it's still an involvement because it's wild to think about, wow, what if? Like what if this or what if that? But it doesn't scratch an itch that needs to be scratched.
Oh, so you think the difference between, like, okay, so we're talking about the difference between people who are, like, casually they're into listening to conspiracy theories or, we listened to the last podcast on the left, hearing Henry, like, go off on, you
Right.
know, these tangents about the Greys and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That's fun, and it can be funny, it can be, fantastical. Then we have people who are, like, what was that? Was it Pizzagate? Where the dude, like, actually showed up, like, ready to kill because he thought that there was, like, child sex slavering happening in the back of a pizza joint?
Don't catch me lying to you.
No, I remember that. It happened years and years ago, and I think they've actually, like, kinda referenced it. I don't know if they've
I've
ever
heard
actually.
Pizzagate, but not really.
Yeah, so I just remember it coming out on the news because it was this big thing of this dude, like, And I'm sure there's plenty of like documentaries maybe about it. I'll have to look into that. Maybe there's a book. But it was interesting how severely and how quickly this person was able to get so deep into these conspiracy theories that he couldn't pull himself out.
Yeah.
And he believed wholeheartedly that he had to do something about the situation. But then we hear about things that really are real. So, you know, MLGW, the city of Memphis, whatever, not providing clean water to, people or not assisting people that need it the most in these situations. And you think, man, something really needs to be done. Of course, you don't think violence, but it's more like we need to push our leaders, we need to push the budget locally to be put towards these infrastructures that need to be created for the longevity of its citizens. And it gets, I think I know what you're saying. There's the people that are kind of, you know, surface level into these things. And then there's the people that like it takes over their lives.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes it can be hard, especially when truth can be so wild. So the fact that, like, we grow up and we think, people talk about, oh, I drank out of the hose as a kid.
Yeah.
Well, that used to be like a fun childhood memory until you find out, like, that your hose could have tons of lead in it and
Right.
that, like, this is how it's affected your life. And you're going to therapy or you're taking this medication and you're being diagnosed with XYZ. And it's like, oh, we found this much lead in your system. And this is why you have this uncontrollable anger. This is why you have XYZ. And that's for the people that even bother to like look into what's happening in their lives.
Yeah.
And that sounds crazy. That sounds conspiracy theory. That sounds wild, but it's like actually back science.
Yeah. And I mean, it all narrows it down to like, there's a science to it, right? Like, I feel like the people who want to jump the gun initially just want to hear some crazy ass shit to
Mm.
be the center of it or be the first person to talk about it. And like, when in reality, like, they don't have facts to back it. It's
So also maybe it's more of the like not so intelligent people that are falling for.
exactly, yeah. It's like a science experiment,
Or
right?
at least
So
people, yeah, I would say not so intelligent. I'm not saying that these people aren't intelligent. I'm
people who are
saying
ill informed or gullible.
ill-informed or they're, yeah, gullible. They're not willing to dig deeper. They're not willing to question these things or they question them in the wrong places.
They're just looking for shit to be wrong,
Could
like
be.
looking for it to be bad.
Yeah.
And some people are just that way. Like, the reason I'm hell bent on the lead thing is because it's like Memphis is a relatively small town. Why are we like head to head contenders with like murder capital of the year with like Chicago? Well, Memphis has bad water too. Like, not at the aquifer, we don't, but once it gets to the houses, some people have high containment lead poisoning. And then with all the XAI stuff going on right now, with them running the turbines and stuff over there, and they're talking about poor air quality, that kind of also made me delve into it more because Memphis is like, oh no, the air quality's fine. But of course, people in Whitehaven are like, I'm getting sick.
Yeah, I'm so proud. Like, I remember just scrolling on TikTok and, sometimes you get a local thing and there was a group of people who were like actually not only protesting, but being loud, trying to get as many people informed as possible. And I'm like, hell yeah, Memphis, let's fucking go.
Well, I didn't even know that's where they were putting XAI at. I actually went to that job site. They had a piece of rental equipment out there, and I went out there and welded on the bucket of it. I
So
didn't
this
know.
was like one of the rental companies you worked for.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, I didn't realize that was XAI. It used to be Electrolux, and I had never been into there, but right next door to it is the steel mill that I
Mm.
used to go to all the time in Memphis
Mm-hmm.
for work and stuff like that. And
But
literally right next door, they changed it to from an Electrolux to now it's XAI. I've been inside the building. Looked at all that. And they kept referring to it as Whitehaven, which I guess that is Whitehaven, but I considered it more of the industrial park / President's Island of Memphis. That's what I've always referred to it as. But
well, and then we have like you could very easily jump into a whole conspiracy roundhouse with that. Because so we're talking about like, okay, it's being built here. There are ecological issues that need to be looked at, yada yada. But then you go into people like, okay, well, why would Elon develop his AI or develop this factory in one of the poor cities in America with like highest crime?
Think why you give a shit about us?
Okay, so we need to be loud as fuck about it, right?
Yeah.
But then we have another thing, like, so there's that, right? But then there's also, why would he develop it in one of the highest, like, logistic ports or the most heavily, was it like why would he build it in an area that is known for its logistics, known for its import exports? What benefit does he have? Like, because like if you're spending this much money on something, you are thinking in depth about all of these things. So what are the reasons behind it? And then you have to say like, okay, well, is that true? Whatever the reason is. Let's say his reason, he's like, oh well, I'm gonna put money into the surrounding areas and into Memphis. It's like, okay, well, why don't you we have to see like whether or not that's true. And then but then you can always, get into conspiracies about it. Like,
Yeah.
okay. So I wanna end our session with a kind of fun question, but I do want your very genuine and serious answer.
Oh no. I can only give you one of those.
And just remember, this is from a college application.
I didn't need that shit anyways.
This is not me just being like fun haha.
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 Hee.
Would you rather be a vampire or a zombie?
This is for real on the fucking application.
This is for real, yes.
Vampire.
A vampire.
Vampire.
The beard.
Fucking zombie, dude.
I honestly am kind of feeling zombie too, but
Too many rules with vampires.
too many rules. Honestly, a little pretentious. Because like you're a vampire, you've got to go like, but then you do have to suck blood. But then if you're a zombie, you have to eat brains, and that's
I don't
kind of
think you're
hard.
conscious.
You don't think so?
No.
So then, like,
Have you ever
what's the
seen Warm
benefit of
Bodies?
being a zombie? Yes, I have.
Okay. See now, like Warm Bodies, down with. I can come back. Gotta find me a bean. You know?
Gotta find the love of your life.
That's right.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know. I both are so strange. It's like what kind of vampire and what kind of zombie?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I'd also want to be a zombie. I just like carefree. Let me brains.
I had a dude I interviewed at, which I'm gonna say it because I didn't actually get the job. So I interviewed at a PetSmart one time, and they told me that he was like, if you could have any superpower, what would you have?
That was an interview question?
Yeah, and I was just like,
wow.
I want to be able to read people's minds. I didn't get the job.
You really want to read people's minds?
I guess apparently back then I did. I think about it a lot. I'm like, why did I give that answer?
I don't think
I
I'd
think I was just
want
under pressure. I don't give a shit what
You
people think.
said actually, I'd
can't-
probably hurt my own feelings if I was trying to read people's minds.
Yeah.
And actually, when I was younger, I also thought I wanted to read people's minds, but now I think I would want to fly.
Well,
I think that would be
I still
cool.
had deep rooted acceptance issues I hadn't worked through yet. So I was like, I can feel acceptance from any and everybody.
Yep.
Yeah. No, but I think
Concerning.
now as an adult, I would rather have like the ability to deconstruct and construct things without even touching it.
Oh, are you gonna be Magneto?
Not Magneto. I was thinking more of the dude from My Hero Academia. His name's Overhaul from My
Okay.
Hero Academia. He wears the Plague Doctor mask. Now, if I'm not mistaken, he can like fix anything just by like, I think he can just disassemble, but I think it would be cool to be able to like disassemble and reassemble.
I think if I had to pick like a My Hero Academia character, I'd pick Froppy. Yeah. I think I would want to be Froppy just because she's got like cool frog powers, and I would love to just I mean, like, wouldn't even have to be a hero. Like, I could just be a frog. You're telling me I could be a frog and I could be like a human-sized frog? Them gators couldn't mess with me up in the swamp, and I would just spend the rest of my days swamping it up.
Look, we love honesty at the podcast. That's why I'm gonna be real
At the
honest.
podcast?
At the podcast, out here in the cast. I'm gonna be real honest. Froppy is my least favorite hero in the whole entire My Hero. That and Uravity. Pretty sure Uravity is her name.
That's Deku's like
Flame
love
girl.
interest. Yeah.
Well, she's in love with Deku, but Deku's like,
He's got bigger issues, bigger fish to fry. Okay, well, thanks for listening, guys. Next week we should be back on track once I get my printer working. And our review is going to be next week's review will be The Myth of Normal by Gabor Mate. Gonna step out of the world of fiction, do some nonfiction psychology. Really excited to like share our experiences and our thoughts. Really good book, honestly. Spoiler alert, it's gonna be pretty high bean.
High bean.
Yeah, like
Oh, high bean count?
yeah.
Oh. Well, I'm working on Derailed, so I can take this thing over. But I ain't telling anybody what it's about, including you.
Damn.
So, yeah,
Secrets.
that's right.
This is how mutiny starts.
I have a
Keep your
I
secrets.
have a couple movies I've been watching. Much darker
Just a
than
couple?
Interstellar. And much more than a couple. I have about 3 that I've been rotating through right now. So,
Well, I'm excited. And then I don't know when it'll be released, but I know shortly we will be recording Behemoth Seppuku. And we'll have our friend on board. If you apply to college, make sure you listen to this episode first so you can get all your
make sure you know, get it out of the way. No going into that interview. Do you want to be a vampire or a zombie?
It's very important.
That's the most important question.
It's a decision you got to make.
That's right. I haven't seen anything in that little booklet she has over there, but questions. I have not seen any, but I can tell you right now, the most important one is the zombie or vampire.
100%.
Yeah.
All right. Team zombies.
Yeah. Yeah. Team zombies, I guess.
Team zombies.
Woo woo.
Bye-bye, Beans.
Bye, Beans.
Heyo. It's the end of the episode. Thanks for listening. If you liked what you heard, give us a follow to get your weekly dose of beansplaining. Drop a review wherever you get your podcasts and let us know how we're doing. If you have any questions, complaints, or recommendations, please reach out to rinleyworks@gmail.com. That's RINLEEWORKS@gmail.com. Bye-bye, Beans.